state of innocence which are radically opposite. One is the state of innocence, unknown and unknowability, perhaps, or unknown something, not unknowable. I'm saying it is at least unknown till death. And the other is our possibilities, our future. Now, taking these two together, let me tell you what once Kierkegaard said, that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. When we focus on our future, when we try to escape from such situation today, which is pandemic, we primarily face emptiness. We primarily face uncertainty. But although anxiety sounds like, I should say, wholly negative response, it is profoundly ambivalent, because our freedom at the same time attracts us as well as repels us. এই যে আমি সম্ভাবনার কথা বলছি, স্বাধীনতার কথা বলছি, আমাকে একই সঙ্গে আকর্ষণ করে, একই সঙ্গে বিকর্ষণ করে। This freedom, sense of freedom, attracts me as well as it repels me. Now, on the one hand, future is full of possibilities. That's true. Future is being something where we can project my possibilities. That's true. And therefore, future seems to be exciting and appealing. But on the other hand, there is a story of another story of this. That is, what is that? As I have said, the uncertainty of the future, which makes us want to cling on the security of the present. Really, how is it possible to reach there? Because I'm facing such adverse situation like pandemic today, COVID-19, coronavirus. Which is always on the rise. We can see in the society, which is always on the rise, and which is overburdening our medical facilities. If I become ill, will I get the opportunity for treatment? That is so anxious for us. That is why I said the question of sincere governance is also taken into account. Am I safe? Am I secure? How can I think of my possibilities? Today I'm not secure. Today I'm not safe. These questions haunt me. These questions haunt us during this pandemic situation. And then nobody can deny that. This is reality. So therefore, we respond to the future with both hope and fear. There is both hope and fear. And let me tell you, the oscillation between these two states, I'm just focusing on this oscillation. The oscillation between these two states, the state of fear and the state of hope. This oscillation actually intensifies my anxiety. This oscillation between hope and fear really intensifying my and our anxiety. Sometimes I say to myself, and everybody says, I hope, I understand. I know that everybody is saying to himself or herself that it's going to be okay. It is going to be okay. But when we, in the evening, when we watch the television, see the print media, everything, we get all the information of today. We are thinking nothing is going to be okay. So it's going to be okay or it is not going to be okay. This oscillation makes me so anxious. It is becoming so discomfort that many of us really don't see the news or watch the television because we want to escape from this type of oscillation between fear and hope. Sometimes I'm facing the fear, sometimes I'm hoping for a brighter future or a new future. So as Professor Dash was saying, that whether the new normal is going to replace this situation. And this hope and fear are themselves, I think, more internalized possibilities. I'm just presenting this hope and fear as my internalized possibilities. So I'm coming to the concluding part of my talk. I don't know. I say that sometimes I'm in the state of innocence. I don't know really how to escape this situation. And that objectively, if I analyze, that depends much on some factors like the invention of the vaccine, how we can protect ourselves, how we maintain social distancing, how we are preparing ourselves to that extent, the medical facilities, sincere governance and administration. All these factors are there, not one factor. So at this moment, really, I know that there is no objective solution now available to us. Then how to deal with? But we have to deal with this situation. That's true. That is the most real, actual aspect of our existence. Yes, there is no objective solution at this moment, but we have to live. We have to deal with this situation. And this dealing with, we know, the students of philosophy, a very important expression in philosophy, how to deal with some problem, how to deal with the situation. I will conclude by saying these three things. That it is true that so far as the dealing with question is concerned, at least we the students of philosophy can discuss about that. Because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical researcher. So during this pandemic that we have been facing for the last few months, and in view of the anxiety, we are gaining wisdom. That's true. We are gaining wisdom in view of this anxiety. Not everything is negative. At least I don't want to see that from that aspect, that everything is negative. No. In every my lecture, in this webinar, some webinars have already gone past. I have given. I've also always been trying to focus on some positive aspects. Yes, everything is negative around us, but we are gaining wisdom from this, through this anxiety. The first is, I would like to mention faith. Faith. Through anxiety, we may reach faith. And faith lies on the far side of anxiety. Our journey from anxiety to faith. And faith is shown to come into being only on the basis of suffering and struggle. We are struggling, that's true. We are suffering, that's true. But through this suffering, through this struggling, we are continuously reaching to faith. Here, faith means a kind of salvation from anxiety. But mind, we have to keep in mind that faith is, on the one hand, salvation from anxiety. On the other hand, it is reached through anxiety. And I will use faith, I will borrow this element from Kierkegaard's philosophy, that faith is a double movement. It has got two dimensions, double movement. On the one hand, there is renunciation, the faith is a double movement. On the one hand, there is renunciation, and on the other hand, there is reception. We have to renounce the old normal, as Professor Dash was mentioning. Not only that, we have to renounce many old habits. During this pandemic, we can understand that with minimum resources, we can continue our life. And we're living with minimum resources. So we have to renounce overconsumption, that habit of overconsumption. We have to renounce that habit of acquiring more and more and more. We have to live with the crisis, because I have been saying again during this pandemic that this is not an end. We must be prepared for the worst, because global warming is there. Zizek has already said that this is only a dress rehearsal for us. Global warming is coming. And many pandemics, epidemics might appear in the coming days. So we have to be very careful. And we must know, we must acquire the art of renunciation, the art of struggling, the art of suffering even. And on the other hand, renunciation, on the other hand, reception. We have to receive nature. We have to receive the new normal. We have to receive many things which can boost me in different ways. We have to receive new art of living within and outside. So on the one hand, faith, renunciation, on the other hand, reception. Secondly, which is very important, courage. Always I'm trying to focus on courage during this pandemic. There is depression, there is anxiety, but I said how to deal with this anxiety. Secondly, courage. First is faith, secondly, courage. And when I remember, when I am talking about courage, I'm reminded of a character, the doctor of The Plague of Albert Camus, who is seeing that everybody is becoming ill during the plague epidemic. But still, he goes on serving people. He knows that any moment death can come. But he has to deal with the situation. He's after all a doctor. And at this moment during pandemic, we know that many doctors are tirelessly working for us. They are courageous person. You know, 2 days back, a civil servant officer, a lady of hardly how old she was, 20, below 30, perhaps. She has passed away, struggling with this situation. She was taking care of those workers who came from outside. This is courage. And she is really a hero for us. So we must have the courage to face the situation. We must be prepared, but we must have the courage, because without courage, we cannot have faith. Third, which is another important aspect, empathy. I think this anxiety which is projected by this kind of pandemic situation is offering us a moral opportunity to find ourselves in the struggle of sacrifice to work for the greater good for others. We teachers, we are working for the students. And to some extent, some of us, we know that working for the society also by extending different types of, our helping hand. So empathy is to be nurtured. Empathy is to be cultivated during this time, and not this time, even during post-pandemic situation. We have to nurture, we have to cultivate this empathy, compassion for others. And this is, I consider, as moral opportunity for us. We have to cultivate that. And finally, self-dependence. We have become dependent on others in so many ways. And we are watching that, we are really experiencing that many celebrities, many people who are living in the high-rise buildings, who are from upper classes, upper middle classes, they are exposed to coronavirus more. This is alarming. Why? There are many factors. There are many factors, but one of the factors I think that is dependence on others. They have so many subordinates they depend on, these people. And they don't know that how these subordinates are living their life. But every moment of their life, these celebrities, these people who are from very, very rich, families, even the middle class, higher middle class, they are depending so much on their subordinates that they are more exposed, they are becoming more exposed to this virus. So I think we need to develop self-dependence. We need to cultivate this self-dependence. So faith, courage, empathy, self-dependence. At least this moment, we should develop at this moment. We think about nature. When we are trying to be empathetic, I'm also talking about nature as well to overcome alienation. So we are anxious, we are having uncanniness, we are confronting this discomfort, but still we have to deal with this anxiety by cultivating this faith, by cultivating this courage, by cultivating this empathy, by cultivating this self-dependence. So with these few words, I conclude my talk on this issue. And I am so grateful to this college. I'm so grateful for listening to me at this moment. So thanks to everybody. My deep regards to everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging lecture and expressing your views on anxiety from existential standpoint. We come to know a lot of things. That is, we have three aspects: our world around, with the world, our own world, and we come to know about the difference between anxiety and fear, and also the measures that how to escape from this situation. Thank you, sir. We have a lot of questions here. So can we move on to question and answer session, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So, yes, sir. The question, we have 6 questions from the same person, but before that, sir, I would like to take question from Priyanki Bar Pujari. She is asking that how we can deal with our anxiety positively during this pandemic situation.
I think I have already given the answer in my discussion, right? So I have already discussed, that was the concluding portion of my lecture, that we must have to reconstruct our sense of freedom. We have to reconstruct our understanding of our relationship with the nature, our relationship with others. We have to cultivate, as I've said, faith, courage, empathy, self-dependence in this ways. So I think I have given this, I have discussed this issue in my lecture.
Thank you, sir. There are 6 questions from Dr. Chirantan Sarkar of our college, English department. Sir, the first question is that you have referred to the depth of solitude and the role of solitude. How can Jiddu Krishnamurti's teachings help us to understand that?
Now, this is, I don't think this is the topic of my discussion. Jiddu Krishnamurti is completely different aspect. There are many thinkers, even in Indian philosophy, if we go to Ishopanishad, there is there is a kind of understanding, from our Indian perspective. There are so many people there, it can be discussed. Today, I have discussed it from the existential ontological standpoint. I have never discussed about Jiddu Krishnamurti's view, but it is definitely one factor is there, at least two factors. One is that we have really forgotten to think of ourselves. This is the time for self-realization, as I've said. Secondly, as Professor Dash has already mentioned, that we have to look within. We have to raise questions for ourselves. And in Indian context, in Indian philosophy, there are so many ways to think of ourselves. So I have not discussed about that today in that broad perspective. I've only touched this issue only from the existential ontological standpoint.
Yeah, I have given answer
Sir,
to
he's
the
again.
message box.
Yes, yes, yes. Right.
I have given 3 answers to in the message box.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Okay. Sir. Yes. Okay. Next question. Is a solitary mode of survival essentially anxiety driven? Is it not better to turn toward a culture of withdrawal practiced by Zen masters and someone called Henry David Thoreau than to conform to a consumerist utilitarian living?
Sorry, I could not hear it. Is it a question?
Yes, it's the question. May I repeat, sir?
Yes.
Is a solitary mode of survival essentially anxiety driven? Is it not better to turn towards the culture of withdrawal practiced by Zen masters and someone called Henry David Thoreau than to conform to a consumerist utilitarian living?
There are so many concepts and issues there. It is heavily loaded, I think. First of all, it is true that so far as our existence is concerned, we can never escape anxiety. We deny or we acknowledge there is anxiety. There is anxiety. Now, there are different types of anxiety I have already mentioned. There are different types of anxiety. Not one type of anxiety is there. And therefore, this is anxiety driven in that sense. I've discussed that. But on the other hand, I have said that in the view of present consumer culture or consumerism, that is one of the reasons I have, to some extent, I have mentioned that we have been living a life, or our lifestyle had really posited us, have really framed us as a one-dimensional man. We have tried to define freedom in terms of only consumption. We have tried to define freedom only in terms of consuming more and more, acquiring more and more. That is why I have said that we have to go through a kind of self-assessment, self-realization. Therefore, that lifestyle, I have said that is why we have to renounce so many things, we have to receive so many things. And this anxiety, which arises particularly, there is anxiety whole our life. But today I'm discussing in connection with pandemic. So this whole anxiety in view of the pandemic is really reminding of me this type of renunciation and reception.
Okay, sir. Next question is, what do you precisely mean by unreflective unity with our surroundings? Is it meant to be pre-given psychosomatic state which is beyond this sport and culture? If so, how can we consciously nurture that?
Yes, actually, I have said that this I have mentioned that there is some kind of unity is there. Actually, I have said world around, world with, and my own world. when I am actually anxious or in deep boredom, I can understand this situation that I am completely isolated, I'm completely alone, I'm completely thrown into a world of discomfort, uneasiness, complete negative world. But this situation, which I was trying to focus on, that there is some sort of, say, ambivalence. Ambivalence in the sense that uh, we cannot understand what to do, to be or not to be. So our unity, in a sense, unreflective. Unreflective means we are not, we have not been pondering over, we have not been thinking on this issue. We must be, we have to reflect on this kind of unity that I might have with the nature, with the others. So I'm talking about that kind of bond with the nature and with also with the others. We have to reflect on, this is the time when we can reflect on this type of bond with nature and with others.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question. Is not this oscillation between hope and fear is existentially rooted in the understanding of future as an ever-present absence?
Can you repeat the question? I cannot, can you repeat?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Is not this oscillation between hope and fear is existentially rooted in the understanding of future as an ever-present absence?
Ever present,
Absence.
last, ever present absence. Yeah.
Yes.
That is a very existential understanding. It's true that I have said that we are oscillating between hope and despair, or hope and fear. Now, this oscillation intensifies my anxiety or our anxiety that I have mentioned. Now, when I have tried to say that when I am projecting my possibilities into the future, when I'm thinking of my hopes, at the same time, I'm also concerned with my presence, with the security of my presence, with the safety of my presence. Because, so my first point, because since this is an existential understanding, my first point is to this future. Because we are future-driven person. We are always trying to make our possibilities into the future. Death is also our future. So whenever we're trying to do that, it immediately reminds me of my present, which is insecure, which is unsafe. So that is why my present comes into whenever I'm trying to focus on my future possibilities.
Sir, the next question is from Shreyoshi Mojumdar. But as you have answered this question, sir, anyway, is it possible to escape from this oscillation between hope and fear?
Some would say it is never possible till death, right? Till death, it is not possible. This is actually struggle of our life. It will make that is waiting for Godot. We have to wait for that moment, perhaps, when we will be completely free from that oscillation. But perhaps it will not. It will never come. Now, one part. Now that one part is our spirituality.
Oh, sir. Sorry, sir.
One part is our spirituality. Now, that is very subjective step. I don't know. I have not gone through that path. One might be way in our Indian philosophy that has been prescribed in different ways how to lead a nice spiritual life. Now, there is another way that is personal God. We can think of any personal God as reflected in the Kierkegaard's philosophy. Forget about institutional religion. Forget about all types of institutionalized religion or organized religion. We can choose a path of committing ourselves to our personal God, and thereby that is also a question of faith. That is why I have not mentioned anything about God today's lecture, but I have mentioned about faith. I have taken faith only in the practical world, but since the question is raised, I just want to draw attention that this faith is also the faith to the infinite. And there also, the faith has got two dimensions. One is renunciation, and the other is reception. You have to renounce for the God. You have to renounce everything for your God. And you have to receive the love of God, because the God is loving God. But as I've said, in today's pandemic, we're raising question about that loving God, about the suffering God. So, so apart from that, that's why I have mentioned some only indications by applying which we can deal with this kind of anxiety which is appearing due to this pandemic.
Okay. So we have two questions from Dr. Priyanka. First, she is asking that refraining from COVID-affected people have made us more selfish. How to cope with it? We are isolated, not for good. And the next she asks that freedom, boredom, and addiction. These are inundating society. How to manage culmination?
I think many indications I have already mentioned during my discussion and after giving the answers to many questions. I have the first question was that first question only the just if you can.
Refraining from COVID affected people have made us more selfish. How to cope
Right,
with it?
right. Yeah, that's right. That's true. That is true. That is why I have talked about courage and empathy together, because it's true that actually the fact is that during this pandemic, this is not the first time that we are becoming selfish. We are already selfish. We are already selfish. And one of the sources, one of the reasons of such horrible situations might be, I'm not, or rather is, I should say, one of the reasons is our selfishness of human beings. So that is why it's not but the point is that during this pandemic, I'm realizing this. Oh, I'm becoming selfish. Oh, I'm turning into a selfish person. So that's why I say the pandemic, in this pandemic, a realization is happening. I am realizing the fact that I am getting selfish, or I'm already selfish. But yes, I'm getting selfish. So this is the high time I think we should cultivate the other issue. That's why I've said that many people are courageous people. I had to take a patient to hospital in spite of the fact that there is so much danger. But I have to do this. I know I myself have to take a patient to not COVID but other patients. But I know that in hospital there are so many patients of COVID-19, but still knowing the fact, I have to do this. Now I am saying that I have to cultivate courage, impact. And my point is that we have already lost all this. This is the time to acquire these traits, these habits.
Thank you, sir. There is another question from Dr. Chirantan Sharkar of our college. He is asking that, is there a possibility that the mode of reception and renunciation can go against the orthodox definition of morality in any given society?
Um, I don't know actually what exactly he or she is indicating, but orthodox morality, if it can be defined, it will be better for me. I don't get what he or she means by orthodox morality. Actually, I have been arguing that there is situation of this situation of pandemic or this pandemic situation, I have used a word. This is offering a moral opportunity for us. I have used the word moral opportunity for us. Now, this is the time when we can use that opportunity, and we can realize ourselves, the process of self-realization. And renunciation, I have said that we have completely stayed away from this type of renunciation. I have said our habit has become such that we always think that I am free in the sense that I can have more equipments, more materials, more components, elements in my life. I can expect more and more in my life. I have forgotten to stop. So that's why I have to renunciate. I must acquire the art of renunciation. Even in our country, in Gandhi also we can find this aspect. Gandhi had taught us, we can criticize Gandhi on many aspects, but Gandhi had taught us how to live a life of renunciation. I'm not talking about Gandhi, the way he lived his life. It's not possible for us in that way, perhaps. But at least some indications are there how to live a life of suffered life. Because without suffering, we cannot have true freedom. If we take freedom in the true sense of the term, without renunciation, we cannot have true happiness, as Professor Dash was time and again mentioning the notion of happiness. We cannot expect all those things without suffering, without happiness. And this time, this pandemic offers us that moral opportunity when we can cultivate empathy for others, for nature, I've been telling about. That's all.
There is again one question from Dr. D. Priyanka. She is asking that freedom, boredom, and addiction, these are inundating society. How to manage this culmination?
How to manage this?
Culmination.
Yes. Culmination.
How? Yes, sir.
How to manage this culmination? Freedom, boredom,
and addiction.
Addiction. Okay. That is also, today have not discussed anything about freedom as such. 2 days back, I was giving a lecture on freedom. There is a book of Dostoevsky, the brothers Karamazov. In that book, Dostoevsky has used an expression, self-bondage. Self-bondage. That expression, activity or freedom. Freedom in that sense. The freedom is being taken in the sense, actually, it is a kind of self-bondage. That is, I have used that the way we are trying to focus on freedom, it actually leads to the path of addiction, as you have used the expression. It leads to the way of bondage. We have become sublimated slaves, as I use the word. And we have really forgotten to raise questions about ourselves. We have forgotten to think of others. And we have made a habit to use the nature, to exploit the nature, to use other person, and thus we can fulfill all our quote unquote so-called happiness or pleasure. So definitely freedom, the notion of freedom within quotation marks, needs to be reconstructed. Without love, we cannot think of freedom. There must be love for others, because that kind of freedom is self-annihilating, self-destructive, as I've said. And this pandemic has made us realize the fact that during the last few decades, we have been using the term freedom in that way, which has led perhaps to the situation. We have exploited nature. In Sundarban, due to Amphan, we have seen the pathetic situation. One of the causes is that exploitation of nature for our own purpose. So that freedom is somehow related to all these things. Now I have said that this pandemic, this is the time for us to think about the issue. We have to, even not from the individual standpoint, but also from the standpoint of the state. This is not an individual's. This is a kind of togetherness. And what kind of togetherness? There can be a crowd. For example, I use the expression from a nice example was given by Sartre, a crowd or community waiting for bus, and a crowd or community storming the Bastille in France. A crowd or community waiting for the bus, one is trying to eliminate the other. I must have the seat. The crowd waiting for the bus. One is not taking other together. But the crowd storming the Bastille in France in the 18th century, it is actually every person is taking the other person together. Is making effort together with the others. So there is the togetherness, which is in a very positive sense. So this is the time also to think of that positive community sense, which can really help us to have freedom, perhaps in a better way.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the answers. Now I would like to welcome our ex-IQAC coordinator, Dr. Chirantan Sarkar, Assistant Professor, Department of English of Ashannagar Madan Mohan Tarkalankar College, for the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Can you hear me properly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I would like to close this webinar formally. A very good afternoon to you all before that. I'm not going to take much of your time in offering this vote of thanks. And at the very outset, I would like to express our gratitude to Sri Bimalendu Singha Roy, who is the patron of this webinar and the member of the governing body of Ashannagar MMT College, a noted social worker, a member of Legislative Assembly, and an award-winning national teacher as well. And whenever we think of our principal, Dr. Ashok Kumar Das, our joy knows no bound, because he has guided us not only through this particular webinar, but also through the entire series of webinars which we are witnessing here and organizing. On the first day, we have two speakers. The first speaker was Professor Ganesh Prasad Das, retired professor, Department of Philosophy, Utkal University. And the next speaker we have today, Dr. Pralayanka Bhattacharya, Associate Professor, Department of Philosophy, University of Calcutta. We are grateful to them because in spite of their very tight schedule, they have agreed to participate in these affairs, and we are also grateful to them for their very, very engaging talk. Sri Shaumen Pal, Assistant Professor of Philosophy, Ashannagar Madan Mohan Tarkalankar College, is the convener of this webinar, and he has done a great job in putting things together. Dr. Vishwajit Poddar, IQAC coordinator and organizing secretary of this webinar, he also stood by us. And finally, we would like to thank our disciplined audience, and we sincerely hope that they would, they are going to take this ideological content of this webinar further in the coming days. And with this hope, with this note of hope, we would like to call it a day. And now it's over to Srimati Tornima Bonik.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so much. One and all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you, everyone. We'll meet again tomorrow at the same time, 10 a.m.
Okay. Okay, fine.
Till
Thank you.
then, goodbye.
Till then, goodbye.
Hello.